Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Crest Network regular Tuesday morning webinar. Today, I'm the lucky candidate again, once a month, to present this to you. The topic is selling by storytelling. From the beginning of time, people told stories to relay information on the way, all the way down the line. And what we have learned is that storytelling is well received by those hearing the stories. My motivation in talking about and giving you some ideas on selling by storytelling is to help you engage your clients, and in doing so, significantly increase your sales or your marketing efforts. It's been said that facts tell, but stories sell. And I think it's a really appropriate line, considering that we're going to be talking about some really cool ways for you to use selling by storytelling, but also we're going to talk about some of the compelling reasons. There's a big myth that's been pushed around for many, many, many years. And that myth was to create in your marketing process, create a myth, invent a myth, come up with some sort of a myth that was compelling and caught people's interest, and then sell the myth. Unfortunately, or fortunately, the world is much, much smarter today. And because the world is so much smarter, and you can't bluff your prospects and your clients like you used to, now it's about finding a truth, not a myth, but finding a truth within the product or the service that you're offering, and then sharing that truth and sharing it in the form of a short, simple story. We can all remember stories, but we can't remember a series of facts or bullet points. So throughout this presentation, I'm going to do my best, and I have done my best, I believe, to minimize the idea of bullet points, even on the slide presentation. Many, many people over the years in my coaching process have said to me, geez, Dick, I'm really good about leading the horse, or what they really meant was their client or their prospect. I'm really good about leading them to the water, but I just can't make them drink. It's driving me crazy. And my response has been for years, when the reality of this hit me, it's about, and your responsibility as a salesperson or a marketer is about making your audience thirsty. If you do a good job of that, then leading them to the water is a no-brainer, because you've led them to the water by making them thirsty. They'll drink on their own. Every one of us, when we're thirsty, we will go get a bottle of water. It's easy. And so as a salesperson or as a marketer, if you focus on making your prospect or your client thirsty, then they'll drink on their own, and they'll drink the truth that you're offering them. Just take for just a minute and think about some of the successful brands that you're very aware of. We have seen thousands of commercials about Visa or GE or Disney or BMW or Apple. We have seen thousands upon thousands of those commercials promoting those brands. But if you ever thought about the fact that these brands are not and don't simply provide basic information. That's not their modus operandi. It's about the features or the enjoyment or the satisfaction, or let me be more precise, the emotion of those brands that motivates us to be interested in those brands. It is, as I just said, it's about emotion. Look at the Coca-Cola commercial. It's almost always shown around the holidays, in the winter time, and it's the cute polar bear holding a bottle of Coke. It triggers our emotion. Budweiser, where in that picture to the right of the dog and the Clydesdale, where is there anything to do with beer? Where is there anything to do with Bud Light? No place at all. In fact, in the commercial, if you watch the commercial from beginning to end, the only thing related to beer is the name Budweiser. But the emotion is what triggers us. The little dog looking up at the horse. Okay. And then campers. Many of you have babies or have grandkids that are babies. And when we see a picture of a cute little baby like that, laying there with a giant yawn on his face or her face, we're triggered by emotion. It affects us. And that's the goal of these commercials. What they're doing is they're bringing the brand to you in the form of storytelling. And if you think about it, go back to that Budweiser commercial. No place in that commercial does it talk about beer. No place in that commercial does it talk about Budweiser other than their logo. The reason is because it's absolutely not about Budweiser. It's about you, the client, or it's about their client. It's about triggering their client's emotion. It's about what helps your customers succeed. Those are the kinds of stories that you should be delivering. It's about what your product, or in this case, in the disaster recovery industry, it's mostly about service. It's what your service can do for your client. It can, and let's talk in terms of this current virus. By offering a sanitizing service, what can it do for your clients? Maybe all it's doing is giving them peace of mind, but that's great. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And most importantly, and we don't often think in these terms, your service, whatever it is that you're providing, ought to help your client sell their services. In fact, that really is your responsibility as a salesperson or a marketer, is to provide ways that your client or your customer can be more successful. That is what you should be doing. When you think about your brand and what you're trying to achieve, your brand needs to ask 3 critical questions. Question number 1, what does your company promise that nobody else, no other restoration company promises? And I know as you're trying to run that through your head, you're probably thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, that's a tough one. We all do pretty much similar things. Yep, that is correct. So it's really important that you think deeply, you brainstorm about what you can offer or promise or commit to that no other competitor offers. What do you deliver that no one else can deliver? Maybe it is as simple as a compelling emotional story that makes your prospect thirsty. Maybe it's offering something that's very, very scarce. Maybe every restoration company in your market just goes about their basic business. And maybe you could offer to your clients a concierge service. Maybe you could offer something that's generally scarce in the disaster recovery, mitigation, water damage business, and that's the service of being a concierge to your prospects and your clients. In other words, what's a concierge do in a hotel? They try to line up tickets for you to a restaurant or to a show, or they get you a reservation at a restaurant or whatever. Yours could be as simple as picking up their dry cleaning for them while they're temporarily uprooted from their home. Offer that service because it's scarce and puts you in a whole different category than your prospects. Yeah, we've all sat in front of kids listening to a story. We've gone and picked up our kids at daycare or our grandkids, in my case, at daycare, and we've seen them listening to a story. And the kids love those stories. My grandson recently told me a story that he heard in daycare, and he had the facts surprisingly correct. And he only heard the story one time, but it made an impression on him. It was emotional, it struck him, and it was a very positive thing. Storytelling makes them want, makes them insert the word thirsty in place of want. And none of us can resist a good story. So perfect your stories. But I want to give you a caution. I want to warn you about something. People tend to believe stories. When stories are told, people tend to believe them, accept them, commit them to memory until they hear one bogus line or one bogus quote unquote fact in your story, and that they know isn't true. They know it's not true. And the minute that they know that that one item is not true in your story, it kills the entire story. They simply don't believe you. You're not credible anymore. You're not believable. You're almost really not trusted anymore. So please make sure that there is nothing false in your story. Tell the stories, but make sure that there's nothing false, because if there is, you're going to lose that client and very possibly lose them permanently. I want to talk here about some features or facts that are very true in many cases, but they simply don't sell as a general rule. If you go to any one of your competitors' websites, including your own, you will see we offer 24/7, 365 disaster response. You might see something and the numbers will change, but we offer X number of emergency response trucks. We have X number of technicians on staff. We have a live operator on duty 24 hours a day. We are locally owned since whenever that date is. We have the Binford 5000 Super Sucker. We're awesome. We do, and this one just galls me, we do fire, water, smoke, and mold. Right? I don't know what you do to it, but you see that exact phrase on many, many, many websites. And then, although I am absolutely a believer in and have IICRC certifications, when you brag about and make a point that you are an IICRC certified firm or your people are IICRC certified, that doesn't mean much to most people looking at your website, unless it's your competitor. So I'm going to offer you an alternative to put on your website. It's the very next screen. If you want to do a screenshot of it, if that's not convenient, shoot me an email later and I will send you that slide. It's also going to be on the website, on the Crest website as well. But instead of 24/7, 365 response, wouldn't it be more meaningful and actually say what you're trying to say, where you're creating some emotion? We're here for you. Weekends, holidays, or the middle of the night. They know you're there during the day, but they aren't so sure about weekends, holidays, or middle of the night. And so that's far more meaningful and it triggers their emotion far better than 24/7, 365. That's just blah. 12 emergency response trucks or whatever that number. Go back here, 24 technicians on staff. Again, that could simply be crews ready to spring into action. Man, that's emotional. That means far more than X number of technicians on staff. Immediacy, no leaving a voicemail. Live operator on duty 24/7. Yeah, okay, that's nice. It's a fact. But no leaving a voicemail is emotional. I'm not going to go back and forth through the rest of these. I think that clearly you get the point. And if you want to go and even do a screenshot of the previous slide here, and then a screenshot of the next slide, this one, and compare the two, print them out, and then check your website to make sure that you're not saying some generic, basic, non-emotional fact. The process for creating your story, I think one of the great ways to craft a story, and it can be simple, and almost any simple story where you talk with or engage the leaders, owners, and managers of your company and ask them for their personal story. It's going to be pretty unique. It's going to be unusual. I don't care who you are as an owner or a GM manager. We all have an unusual, unique, interesting story. And maybe it's a story of what compelled you to go into the water mitigation or the disaster recovery business. But create a specific personal signature story that your sales and marketing people can present. It creates emotion, it's remembered, it's meaningful. Brand narratives that represent the essence of your brand to the community. It could be as simple, that brand narrative could be as simple as, we are very, very concerned about when our clients have a flooded home. We don't want that home to turn into a mold contaminated property. We don't want that client's home to deteriorate into a calamity. We want to make sure that your home maintains its value. And so you can have those emotional narratives that speak to your brand and how it affects your clients or your prospects. Tell us moving and compelling stories. Tell us stories that make people maybe like you, make people care about you, and make people want to buy from you. In the interest of time, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about these two pictures that I have on the screen. But the short version of the little girl on the left, her name is Zeta. And our daughter was the foster mom taking care of this little girl until the mom was rehabbed from her drug habit. And so the state of Florida put little Zeta back with her mom. And a year or so ago, her mom overdosed on drugs and died. And so little baby Zeta came back to my daughter. And because my daughter lives across the street, we see little baby Zeta often. The little boy on the left, we affectionately call him Nemo, like the fish, Nemo. And he doesn't know any other name but Nemo. My daughter, as a foster mom, picked him up at the hospital when he was born because of some chemical dependency drug issues with the mom. Ultimately, the mom was determined not eligible to get this little guy back. And so my daughter adopted him. And he is now our grandson, and he is the coolest dude you could ever want as a grandson. So I just shared with you two short, simple stories, and there is no question that the majority of people that are watching this webinar today, you're moved in some small way about those emotional stories. I tell you about them not to talk about my daughter or me. I tell you about them to show you how you can take something very simple and turn it into an emotional story that might make them care, hit the wrong button here, might make them care about you and like you and want to buy from you. The other part of telling stories versus forcing them or your client to remember a series of bullet points is that very simply, it's hard for us to remember a list. You know, it's like the grocery list when you go to the grocery store. You can put 10 things on it, and you put them on, or you and your wife or kids put them on the list. And if you forget that list and go to the grocery store, I guarantee you, you will forget one or two of the items on the list. Statistics. None of us remember statistics very well. Not very many people remember numbers very well. The only one that I can immediately tell that really remembers the numbers is Bill Giannone. Don't know how, but that's the way he has his mind trained. And guys, yeah, we don't like instructions, we don't read instructions, and we can't remember instructions. So why are those not great ways to generate a compelling story or to help people remember? They just simply aren't remembered. People forget those kinds of things. I'm going to give you an example. This is true. This is a fact. It's very rational. It's very logical. It is conscious thought, but it's not part of the buying decision. On Heinz's website, Heinz proudly announces they were founded in Sharpsburg, and I believe that's Sharpsburg, Pennsylvania. They proudly announced that their products enjoy either number 1 or number 2 market share. The top 15 brands of their products account for 95% of their international or their total worldwide sales. Heinz sells 650 million bottles of ketchup each year. Heinz has, across the world, 5,700 different products that their name is on. And the really good news, they are a responsible corporate citizen. Now that I've said all of that, do you really care? Does that matter to you? Does that motivate you? In any one of those, does that motivate you to go out and buy Heinz ketchup? I'm thinking it does not. However, and this is how you see Heinz commercials for ketchup, they show a sizzling hamburger or hot dog with steaming hot French fries and the Heinz ketchup dripping ever so slowly out the end of the bottle. It's kind of that song, was it by Aretha Franklin or somebody else, about anticipation? That makes it mouth-watering. That motivates you far more to buy ketchup, Heinz ketchup, than having a list of 6 or 7 bullet points. Emotion sells, stories sell. So your service, whatever you're offering, has to have a story and ideally a legend built into it. It has to embody the values way beyond the basic function or your basic utility of what your service does. Yeah, you do water extraction, you do structural drying. That's the basic utility. That's the basic function. The emotion, where you capture their emotion, is in one of your competitors says it really well, like it never happened. It's about capturing the emotion. It's about, we put your home back to the way it was before the disaster. We help you get on with life. So brand storytelling is absolutely not about you. It's really about what you're trying to help your customer achieve. So let's evaluate what the world might lose if your particular brand didn't exist. First of all, differentiation all by itself is really, really tough to make happen. Differentiation is what I coach business owners on a lot. And it's vital and important to have differentiation in your business as well as differentiation in you as a marketer or a salesperson. But it's really, really tough to make happen, and it's even tougher to sustain it. So what I want you to do is move from that functional differentiation to emotional differentiation. When you take it down the path of emotion and it is different than your competitors, that gives you a powerful success story. Folks, it's our job to sell our customers merchandise or our customers service. It's not our job to sell our own product. It's our job to sell our customers services. And the better we do at that, the more they will want to do business with us. In addition to that, please don't slam us on the head with some obnoxious, salesy pitch. Nobody wants it. Nobody likes it. It really needs to be, and the new coined term over the last few years is edutainment, a combination of education and entertainment combined into edutainment. What you offer with your customer verbally, what you offer on your Facebook business posts, on Twitter, on Pinterest, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. It really needs to be edutainment. That really gives you a significant differentiating edge. Stories that work are stories that activate your client's emotions and at the same time communicate your values, which need to be in line with your prospects' values. So, does your story entertain? And all the while entertaining, does it also inform or teach your client or your prospect? And further, does it engage your client or make them want to connect with you and your company? And probably singly most important is number 4. Does it stir emotions? Remember, people don't buy from companies, they buy from people. On top of that, does your story seem genuine? Does it offer specifics, but specifics that trigger emotional responses? Does it engage, and this is the visual, that's the graphic that's on the screen, does it engage as many possible senses as you can make it? Their hearing, their vision, their taste, touch, smell. Those are the senses that you're trying to trigger. Boy, it's really important that you trigger as many of those as you can to create the emotional response. And then, is it about them and is it for them? Or is it like so many salespeople and marketers? It's all about yourself. Please don't make it all about yourself. Your story needs to convey ideals. Your story isn't good enough if it just simply is to produce a useful product or a useful service. Whatever your service is, you need to build an incredible emotional story or a legend into it. And it needs to shape your prospects' feelings, because when you shape their feelings, you trigger their emotional response. And that's what we're trying to achieve here. This is the way people buy in the year 2020. In fact, this is pretty much the way people have been buying for the last 5 years. Stay on it, keep up with it, learn it. Folks, there's a brand new rule book. The game and the rules have changed. Can you imagine going out, excuse me, going out in the field with a baseball bat, and instead of using the baseball to hit the bat or to hit the bat, you use a football instead? It's like, who's going to pitch a football to a batter? It doesn't make sense. There are new rules to the game of sales and marketing. There are new rules to the brand process, to how you create emotional differentiation. As I've said, people don't buy from companies, people buy from people. And make your customer the hero by getting their testimonial after you've done a great job for them. So, recapping, 8 key points. Storytelling is about successful communication. It's about persuasion and engagement. It's about finding a truth and then sharing that truth. It's using words that help them visualize what it is you're offering. We know that stories are better than lists because we can't remember lists. But every one of us watching this video can remember the story about the Little Red Riding Hood, or the story about the 3 little piggies with the wolf huffing and puffing. We can remember the story about Jack and the Beanstalk. Why? If that was presented to us as a child in a series of 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 bullet points, no one would remember any of it, not even the name. But because we are so good at remembering stories, use stories rather than lists. Stories are the emotional trigger. It's a new playbook, folks, and it's not about you. I'm Dick Wagner. You've been watching the Crest Network. Thanks so much for watching Selling by Storytelling. See you next time. Bye-bye.